morning, folks. I think I can hear myself on the speaker. There we are. Good morning. Nice to see you all. Hope you all enjoyed yesterday into our first sessions of today. So this session's about the human architect designing high-impact content in an AI-driven world, where you'll be listening to me talking for a bit, and we'll get Ro over in a second as well. So in terms of introductions, for anyone who's not spoken to me already, and I think I spoke to quite a lot of you yesterday, I'm Sean O'Sullivan. I'm one of the staff product managers in LearnUpon, based in Dublin, in Ireland. I work with the content team on the engineering side, as well as a few other teams, but my primary domain is course creation, course generation, and the integrations that surround it. And Ro, do you want to introduce yourself? Or I can do it? Yeah, and I'll be joined by Ro Wren as well, the co-founder of Corso by LearnUpon, and now LearnUpon's product auth lead. And Ro will be getting you through a live build at the end of today's talk. So what are we going to cover in this session? And I should say at the outset, all these sessions are recorded as well, so don't worry about missing out on anything. You'll be able to catch up in the recordings when we share them. We're going to go through some exclusive insights. You've heard a bit of them yesterday in Caroline's product presentation. The architect shift in how content is created, moving from a primarily manual process to a more strategic design direction. The impact at speed, which might be obvious when we talk about AI an awful lot. Quantity is not really a barrier anymore. It's not just looking at content libraries to get your quantity. Anyone can have a high quantity of content. The problem now is how do we ensure with that quantity that we're still maintaining quality across the courses that we're delivering. The toolkit, so what type of infrastructure can you have in place or should you have in place to ensure that you've got quality fact in all of your content. And then the live build, so a real-time demonstration of what we position as the architect workflow. So one of the stats, and I think this might have been one of the ones on the screens yesterday, 89% of learning leaders are using AI. I'd say for anyone who spends any time on LinkedIn, probably not a surprise there. It's you can't get away from AI on LinkedIn at the moment. And that's one of the teaser stats from LearnUpon's report on AI that's going to be released in the near future. It's around the state of AI in learning. So despite the fact that so many people are using AI, 93% of learning leaders have concerns about the use of AI in their organizations. And I don't think that's a cynical approach. I think it's a very pragmatic approach. It's a huge technological shift in many ways. Rushing to implement it just to implement it has a lot of potential negative consequences to it. So it's fair to be concerned. Some of the top concerns we've seen from our research, risks regarding data security, privacy, and compliance, particularly as automated AI agents started coming out. There's been a number of data breaches across not only our industry, but other industries. It's very important not only to ensure that your company's data is safe, it's just as important ensuring your learners' data is safe when they're using your software. A less human or lower quality learner experience, that's just speaking to quantity is not an issue anymore. How do we maintain the quality in the quantity of content that we're delivering? Hallucinations or errors in learning content accuracy. This one is probably one of my favorites. I think that there's a fallacy of AI accuracy. AI technology as it stands today, you cannot ever be 100% accurate. There's always room for error. It's never going to give, or in general, will never give the same response to you twice. It's thinking, not really, but it's coming up with the answer every time you're asking it a question. It's key to understand that no matter what you see online, it can never be 100% accurate. There's always room for error. How do we make sure we can catch that? Which also is a human problem. We as humans are never 100% accurate either. How do we make sure that we're catching our own errors? And finally, negative impact on my role, team size, and/or job security. Completely fair. We have a lot of change in many industries. How can we shift our focus to ensure that we're able to continue delivering value in our roles despite the fact that technology has changed or impacted some of our workflows that we had traditionally? So despite these fears, a lot of people using AI, a lot of people concerned about the use of AI in their organization. Only 1 in 10 respondents have a formal human-in-the-loop policy when they're looking at how do we deliver AI-generated content out to our learners. So 84% of respondents agreed that human review of AI-generated content is very important. So there's a glaring gap between those two figures, and how do we close that gap? So even though confidence is up since 12 months ago, only 12% of people feel very savvy in using AI in learning. And this is from my own personal experience. I think there's a lot of, like all technology, there's a lot of stuff online. It's like, oh my God, I should be using agents and having these things that I should be building out really put me off diving into AI. And then when you slowly start using it, you kind of figure out, okay, it's not really that complicated in what we're trying to do with it. I don't need to be some specialist in prompt engineering to get quality out of the AI. More or less being a good Google searcher will get you a long way in a lot of the AI tools that you're using. So the confidence gap. Our research shows that while people using AI, 90% aren't comfortable with AI-only final content. Again, just going back to that part that it's not going to be 100% accurate, even providing it with source material. What is your review process for ensuring that what it's outputting is accurate? So the reality, just because we're all using AI, doesn't mean that we feel in control of the outcome. I guess it's like getting a new intern in. Would you let a new intern go and publish content out to all of your learners without having some sort of review process? I'd hope not. You never know what will happen. And for many, it's a case of playing the instruments but missing the conductor. For anyone that's in choirs or in orchestras, you can survive without a conductor. Like you'll get there. It might end up completely off tune, and you might end up at the wrong tempo, but you'll get there. But when you have a conductor in the room, it just sings so much better. So how do we move from that experimental usage of AI to a confident content architect? The problem, to summarize what we've looked at so far, the anxiety around automating that full content flow, checking hallucinations, checking the facts that are in it, and the loss of pedagogical depth in rapid production, just again speaking to the quality. And what outcome are we looking to get? What's the potential that we want to see? Reclaiming creative time. I will admit I'm not a learning designer. I've spent much more time outside of product in knowledge-based creation and updating. So for me, it takes a long time starting from scratch and creating knowledge-based articles. If something can get me 80% of the way, I can spend much more of my time ensuring that how we're presenting that information is better for our learners to consume when they're looking for help. And I think the same stands for educational content. So redirecting the expertise to high-value strategy and pedagogical impact. So how can we make this together? We're going to go through the challenge, yeah. How can we make sure speed matters, but your expertise matters more? And I think breaking it down into speed without compromise. So what are the three things or three pillars that you'd look at? Strategic intent. Content architects define their objectives first. And this is probably common anyway. You're not coming in at a cold start. Often when you're looking to create a course, you've already got some sort of brief outlining of what you're going to be doing, whether that's source material or someone sending you on, like in the software industry, we have a product requirement stock. That's what we're going to be using to create the content. So formalizing that process. Human in the loop then, so ensuring that there's a formal vetting process when you have content finished, and that confidence comes from knowing you always have the final word. It's not the AI that's finalizing it. Double check it, make sure that it's accurate before going out. And then using the right tools. So the best content tools are designed to support the experts and not replace them, keeping you in the driver's seat at every stage of the process. And some tools, as well as, of course, tools are evolving very rapidly. There's new tools coming out every week. You want to ensure that they're going to do what you need them to do. And that changes a small bit depending on the type of content that you're creating. Be it compliance, where 100% or close to 100% accuracy is an absolute must, compared to something maybe the more soft skills, and like let's say Management Basics 101, where there's some more leeway in what type of content you can have. So ensuring that you have tools that are able to cater to that need. So strategic intent, moving from manual assembly to high impact strategic design. Perhaps common in these documents, what is the purpose? What are the business outcomes? What are the learning outcomes you're trying to achieve with the content that you're creating? Looking at the pedagogical side of it by applying expert frameworks to every draft, ensuring that transforming generic text into a structured scaffolded journey that drives real results and perspective. So add the high value insights and expert viewpoints that make the content unique to your organization. And that part can also come from human review. And the AI will pick up some of it depending on the source materials that you're providing to it, but giving it that little bit of glitter or oomph will help your content land better. So effective human in the loop strategies. Alignment, so again, going back to your first step on your strategy, making sure it aligns with what you set out to do. Is it actually hitting those clear objectives? And ensure the machine follows your lead rather than just going through it. Of course, anyone who's used ChatGPT, you can chat away with it. It's really, AI in general is great at coming up with ideas, even if sometimes the ideas are completely wrong. So giving it something to actually form its response around will help ensure that what you're getting out of it is higher quality. Auditing, so looking at your ACV, accuracy, context, and voice in the content that it's generating. This can both be before, when you're looking at the initial prompts that you're giving to the AI as part of your content creation, but also part of your human review. From LearnUpon's perspective, we have our One Voice brand guidelines, which dictate how we should be wording and positioning all documents, all text, I should say, that you would consume. So ensuring that whatever is built adheres to that criteria. And then authenticity. So removing generic AI isms, I think the M- is probably the most well-known of all of them, to the point now where we're getting backlash that people love the M- and we're going to start using it more. So making sure we don't have too much of that in our content. And ensure the content feels expert-led and human-crafted. You've probably seen this yourselves online. I keep going back to LinkedIn, but it's a good example. LinkedIn comments, it's relatively easy to identify when someone's got an AI bot that's just setting up comments for them. It's not engaging. It's not really good content. And you see it as well that people quite obviously use it for drafting articles where they're not actually doing anything or personalizing the content. It's just pushing out articles that AI has created. You see it on YouTube a lot as well. When we look at AI-generated videos, it is draining to listen to things where there's been obviously no love, I guess, for want of a better word, put into the artifacts that they're creating. And then the right content tools. Of course, in LearnUpon, we're biased. Create Plus is the content tool for us, but I'll try and leave that bias aside. So looking at your context, so using your own standard operating procedures, PDFs, whatever assets you have available that will allow the AI to generate content specific for what you need. The more detailed those items are, the better. The capability, so choosing platforms that are designed for learning. That can sometimes be a hard one to get right. There are learning depends on the use case that your learner is trying to get to. There'll be different tools catering to those different things. Sometimes they want a full course. Sometimes they might just want a video. Sometimes they're stuck on a roof. They need to know how to replace the chimney because it's about to fall off. They just want that little bit of information. They don't want to sit down and do a 3-hour course. So what tools you're using depend on the context of the learner. Yeah, and then control. So using AI to update only the sections impacted by audience variations or product changes. I think this is one of the hardest things to do when you have a large library of content, updating as things change. And I can speak from LearnUpon's perspective in that we change an awful lot all the time. Big changes, very easy to keep on top of those. Small changes, like a button has been changed from saying create to add. Catching that in all your documentation and all of your screenshots is incredibly difficult. Being able to set up something that's able to catch those changes and automatically update that content for you, hugely powerful, and is something that AI in general enables that helps you get to those things that you otherwise would deprioritize in your workflows. So that's a cover of those 3 strategic pillars. Oh, wrong button. Yeah, so can AI actually be fast while still letting you be in control? I mean, the answer is yes, but we will continue anyway to show you. And at this stage, I'm going to hand over to Ro. Do you want the clicky thing?
Sure, thanks.
No worries.
All right. Oh, it's working. Hi, everyone. Great to see so many familiar faces already. I hope you all have been enjoying the conference. I am Ro. I'm one of the co-founders of Corso. I thought instead of starting off with the demo, I wanted to actually just do a quick intro since so many of you have been asking about just like the background of course, Create Plus and how our collaboration with LearnUpon began. So I'll just take a short moment to intro ourselves. So Create Plus, we are now a fully integrated AI native course authoring tool. That lets you create courses from your source materials or from just an idea. And we are optimized for both learning designers and subject matter experts. We're formerly known as Corso. We still sell it on the side, but so if I get the words confused, that's why. So the Create Plus is the integrated version in LearnUpon, as you probably know. And my co-founder, Matthias, who's not here today, he's the CTO, and he is the sort of AI brains behind everything. We met about 3 years ago in Berlin, and we used to work together at a tech consultancy as well. So I was the product and design person, and he was the tech co-partner. So a little bit of background on how Corso came to be that might be of interest. So actually first Corso was meant for everyone. It was meant for, we thought it would be more for like professors and people who had a lot of like knowledge stuck in their heads who wanted to get it out but maybe doesn't know how to make a course. Eventually though after, well, it actually came from like a personal need, and if you have questions on that, I can share that information with you later. But yeah, I wanted to basically break down a really long piece of content. And it worked really well with, I think GPT 3.5 was just beginning to be a thing at that point. We built a prototype, launched it just for, again, personal interest, and it just kind of took off with that general demographic. But about like 6 months to 8 months in, we started noticing something. Our customers were coming in, we were starting to get more like serious folks, more like yourselves, who worked at companies and had bigger problems to solve that we weren't aware existed. So for example, one of our first customers wanted to know, or their workforce was starting to retire, most of them, and they wanted to know how to get the information from their brains into the brains of the next generation. They didn't have a big learning team, so they wanted to use a tool like ours to streamline that process. And we didn't even realize that we were such a good fit for an audience like that. But over time, we started getting more of these kind of requests where it was much more targeted from like a learning designer standpoint, and we started learning more about this domain. So we decided to start partnering with instructional designers and working alongside them and their companies to basically co-create what is now Create Plus or Corso. So to make it more company friendly and not just for kind of anyone, but for, more directed for someone with a learning design kind of background and their SMEs. And in that process, with all our learnings and that collaboration, we learned a lot about instructional design principles, pedagogical best practices, and so we rebuilt Corso, the back end and the front end, to make the flow, the workflow, comply with what an instructional designer would typically be going through, just the key parts. So a lot of it you'll recognize as professionals when I show you. A lot of the steps will make sense to you because it came from folks like yourself. And then within the back end models, everything has been sort of, hi. Yeah, go.
What instructional design methodology did you use?
I think Bloom's taxonomy was the one that we anchored on the most. And then trying to scaffold the course in a more like, start from simple and then kind of go more complex, key takeaways, exercises, pacing the practice tests, and knowledge checks in between so that you're not getting overwhelmed with information. Those are some considerations that we had. Okay, and yeah, I think I think people ask us what the difference is between ourselves and Articulate, which is the incumbent, as well as Easy Generator. And I think the answer for us is quite simple. It is quite simple when you actually use it and you see the outcome. I think both Matthias and I have been like relentlessly involved in the technology and the design of the product, and that was what we like, the core of what we think matters, to make it easy to use for people and also for the technology to be really robust. So the output that you're going to get is gone through multiple rounds of evals or evaluations, which, where AI kind of like tests its own thinking, and also there's human in the loop, which Sean mentioned, in that process to make our output as accurate as possible so that it is industry leading in that regard and always has been. And we continue to work on that, and that's still a core pillar of what we're trying to deliver. Okay, so I actually had a couple thoughts on AI in general before I get into the demo. I know you've all heard a lot about I mean, every presentation has been about AI, and there's been different ways of saying these same things, but it's something that I genuinely, strongly believe in myself as someone who isn't really in learning, but is, obviously very adjacent, but also deep in the AI world. I think what I've noticed in the past is, unfortunately, like learning L&D is one of the first groups to kind of get downsized whenever there's like a global crisis of some kind. And I wonder if that feeling is maybe like that fear is still within some of us. And I'm not saying that that's not happening, but I do think that that kind of efficiency driving is happening across all domains and not just learning design this time around. And in fact, I think to echo what everyone's been saying and what Brendan's been saying in his keynote, it feels like this time around learning is actually going to be the bedrock of what's going to help companies deal with a lot of the change that's forthcoming. And I think it's up to us or up to yourselves to kind of position yourselves as that bedrock and strategic foundation to help these companies develop. So yeah, I think it's a very exciting thing. And I'm about to show you a tool that's going to compress your course creation time from basically like down to 10% or less. But I just want to say that that's not actually the ROI. The ROI is what you do with that 90% of time that you have left. And I think that time, there's so many things that I think many of you have probably been wanting to do and know are effective. Like in-person training, for example, is always going to beat a web-based training. And things like just finding your leverage within a company, understanding what a company is actually trying to do, and positioning learning as a partner to that will help, hopefully, you find a seat at the table as well, because I think that's where learning belongs. And in order to enable that, of course, using the right tools hopefully gets you there faster. And we hope that Corso or Create Plus and LearnUpon can be your partner in that. We hope that being able to enable your subject matter experts to create the courses while you do other more impactful strategic things, helping you spending time preempting what the company actually needs and then building those things before they're being kind of asked, and also creating hyper-specific courses for the learner. I think ultimately it's like focusing on the outcome and not on production, because yes, you'll be able to create a lot more courses a lot faster, but I think it's been echoed throughout, but it's not about that. It's not about the quantity of output or like doing what you were doing faster. It's, I think, really about like reclaiming that time to do like more high leverage work. And so on that note, I think it's actually never been more of a more exciting time to be a learning designer. And I hope you guys feel that sentiment to an extent as well. So with that, I will begin my demo, unless Sean has a question. Okay. Does anyone want to ask anything? All right. So start. All right, actually, show of hands, who here has already tried Create Plus? Brilliant. Okay, sweet. I hope I surfaced some things that maybe you haven't really figured or found yet, just because, yeah, there's a lot of functionality. I actually did have to pre-build a course because the internet was quite spotty and I didn't want to be left without a course. So I'm going to start you off on the steps that I took and kind of articulate what every step is for. So when you start off with a course and you start creating, you'll be faced with two options. You can generate a course or a presentation or build manually. Some people, I would generally recommend the first. And you have three options under that. You have transform, which allows you to take multiple pieces of content in any kind of unstructured format or structured and just kind of dump it in, and the AI or the system will come up with the outline and structure the course for you in a pedagogically sound way. Or some folks who already have a PDF or PowerPoint that they have been teaching with and they love the structure of, they know it works, they might want to use one of these two options. So with convert structure, it basically converts the actual flow of your PowerPoint or PDF, but the content gets slightly rewritten. Whereas the convert one-to-one option converts everything word for word. It just makes it interactive and allows it to be exported via SCORM. So this might come in handy for like specialized use cases, but for most people, I would recommend the transform option, which does help you create that entire outline. So I've already preloaded a source, and what I've used is the Netflix culture deck, and it's quite a long PDF. It's 128 pages, and you can actually upload quite a few different formats here, and you can upload multiple as well. I've just done this one in this case, and you'll see the item here. And I'll press next, and I'll be faced with some topics. So the system has selected several topics for me to that it thinks I might want to create a course about. So I can select the ones that I think would be a good fit. I can see more options if there's not enough, and I can edit everything, the existing ones, but I can also add my own here. And then once I'm ready, I'll click next. Based on those topics, the system will come up with some potential learner profiles. And here is that like kind of strategic piece where you might want to consider how, like at what complexity do you want your course to be? Or like, do you want it to be very general for the entire company? Or do you want it to be for Sam from marketing? It does go, like you can go quite a lot of ways with this one. And what's cool is you can also select one of these options, edit it if you want, and even save it as a preset. So I've got some previously saved ones here. And so again, if you have like specific, for this one it also works with, let's say, you educating a customer versus educating internal. So quite a few options to think through. And then the learning outcomes are going to be based on the steps before. Some of you may already come with learning outcomes, you know what you're going to be creating, so you don't have to use any of these and just type your own. Otherwise, feel free to select one that you think fits, and you can always see more options, edit, and add additional outcomes, and so on. Am I going too fast? Is this okay? Is everyone following? Okay, great. So when I click next, we come to the sort of settings section. We can select our starting language. So you can select from many, many languages, but you can also, there's this little Easter egg, you can actually type whatever language you want here, and we'll be able to, unless it's very niche, we will usually be able to select it as well, even if it's not on the list. But yeah, this is useful for when you have, yes?
Do you have like an option to upload a glossary if you have preferred translations for things like culture,
Translations? Sorry?
The
A glossary.
At our organization, preferred translations for things like our values, our vision, our mission, and so
Yeah.
do you have like a glossary where you can save those preferred translations?
That's a great question. Right now, we don't, but there is a way to get that information into the system, like a workaround that I'll show you in a second. So yeah, back to the translations, there may be a time when you want to start from the language of the sources that you uploaded, but also you might want to give it to someone in a different area of the world to edit, and they may speak Mandarin Chinese or something else, and so you might want to start with a different language in that case. But usually we choose the language that you want to actually edit in, and then you've got and you can translate these after. And then you've got your tone of voice. There's some presets here that you can use, and you can also have your custom presets. And to answer your question, this is where that glossary might live. So I know that it's not quite one-to-one to what you're saying, but for example, if you have specific terminology that you want to address your team by, for example, or like the LearnUpon's tone of voice, et cetera, like you can just upload that here, and then you can save that tone as a preset and reuse it later. Yeah, so I would say the best way to do that, to accomplish that, would be to save those profiles. So for example, you would want to save a learner, different learner profiles for like external, internal, et cetera, and then you can reuse those as a template. And similarly, I would reuse the tone as a template. So by the way, we're not training any models in this process. It's more just like you're kind of defining your requirements. Does that help? Great. Okay, so next we choose our course length, and you can select one of these presets, or you can even add your own. If you want a micro-learning, you might want just one lesson. And by the way, every lesson comes with about 10 cards. You can select the amount of cards. Cards are like slides. And yeah, so if it was like a really short one, you just choose one here. And yeah, and then you could press next, and you'll get to the outline stage. You can add an outline manually, or, one second. Sorry. Okay, so you can add an outline manually, or you can generate. In this case, I've pre-generated an outline. So the blue text here, you want to focus on that a bit, because that is the system telling you what it thinks makes sense and why it chose to come up with this outline. If you don't agree with it, feel free to regenerate that outline. You can add a custom prompt here to make the regeneration, or you can go back, edit those parameters, and then come back to regenerate the outline again. So there's a lot of flexibility here. And just note, you don't have to actually use the step. You can create an outline manually if you already know how you want your course to progress, and manually type everything in. It'll still use the context you gave it before to generate the course outcome. So this is just what we suggest for folks who maybe don't know how they want their course to be laid out yet. It comes up with a course title for you, and then all of the lessons. So each lesson comes with lesson objectives. There's a small bug with formatting right now, but it's all the objectives are here, and then you have all the different exercises and card types that are in that lesson. So each of these cards represents one lesson, and you can drag them around to create the flow that you like. You can go as far as selecting different sources per lesson. So if you have, let's say, one particular video that you want to just focus on for one lesson, you can select that source. In my case, I only added one source, so I'm not going to be able to do that. But in other cases, you'll be able to, select. And here are the number of, you can choose the number of cards that you want for that lesson. You can always add more afterwards. This is just kind of the bird's eye view scaffolding for the course you're going to be generating. So the more edits you do here, and the more kind of happy you are with this step, the better your first draft is going to be, and the less edits you're going to have to make later on. So do spend a little bit of time on that. And then once you press generate, you will get a course that looks something like this. One second. Okay. So this is the course that I got out of the box. And from a learner standpoint, I'm first going to say that I don't like the way this looks, because it's not the Netflix course that I was trying to make. So I'm just going to go back into my editing screen, and I'll just do a really quick update on my theme. And I've saved a Netflix theme here, but you can create your own. And so boom, I've applied the theme, and you can see when I refresh this. Okay, glad you like that. And to preview the course, as we're going through it, this is what I would see as a learner. Okay, so we've got out-of-the-box flip cards that have been generated, all of which are editable, as you'll see. We've got some quizzes with answers, tells you whether it's right or wrong, and the reasons why it's continuously wrong for me. And I've added a video as well. I've just embedded it. So this isn't generated, it's just embedded.
How do you do that? So a lot of our courses have embedded either product tutorials or guided simulations that are from an outside, different software that we use to create those. How would we embed those?
So I actually just popped a YouTube video into this card. I just made a blank card, and I did that by going here, card. I turned this off because I don't need it, and that's generate with AI. If you do generate with AI, there's all these other options, but I didn't need that, so I turned it off. Selected a blank card, pressed add card, and then I pasted the video directly in here. And it just shows up immediately. And you can also add custom HTML, and yeah, if I don't know what format it's in, but you can have iframes and so on as well.
Could you have done that in the outline initially, or do you have to get it to this phase to do that?
You'd have to get it to the editing phase to do that, yeah. Yeah, in the create phase, you could do that. So yeah, I can edit. It'll take the transcript of the video and generate from that.
Is there a size limitation to anything that you're trying to put in there at that point?
I would not go bigger than 1 gig, which is obviously massive. The bigger it is, the longer it's going to take to generate. So try to compress any files that are too big.
Are the presets for profiles and tones shareable across the team?
Yes.
What accessibility features are automatic? Alt text, audio overlay, closed captioning? What do you all need?
Great question. Alt text is there, and you can make edits on that as well. I think that's the only one.
We do have audio narration for the
audio
whole
narration,
course
yes.
as well. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, you can actually just press this button here, and it narrates everything with an AI voice that's quite realistic as well. You can select the different voices. You can have specific narration instructions, or even a custom transcript where it reads just a bit of the text and not all of it if you want. No closed captioning on the videos. Say that again? If you translate it to multiple languages, it will be like the narration will narrate whatever's on the page.
If your video has closed captioning, it'll display closed captioning in here, so you can turn them on and off. It's just we don't do any video editing as you know within Create Plus at the moment.
So you cannot trim the video?
Pardon?
You can't trim the video?
No, not at the moment. No. It is a really interesting topic. It's one that we're looking at. So in discussions, I can't say that we've got any timelines on it, but in the source stage of being able to upload the video, we can already do that. We already do transcripts from it, which means we have the time bits. How can we just grab relevant snippets from the video to insert those into your courses, or screenshots? And I have to say, I think we probably both have the same thing. Screenshots take so much time to get right and in. If I can just get them in from my video, I'd save about a year of my life.
Contextual.
Yeah.
If you have proprietary language, like your product names or anything like that, can you train the AI voice to speak it properly?
Oh, the voice output. Yeah, I would put that here. So if you go to narration instructions and you toggle that on, you can see this example even. We actually built that for the specific use case you're talking about. So just like make sure you spell it out the way it's supposed to sound, and then it'll narrate properly. Yes?
Auto-generating so people can listen to our courses as well as they talk or articulate. You guys are ready to do that?
Yeah.
Can you add other logos? So I know this is Netflix, but let's say I work for Netflix, but I'm doing this training for.
Yes. Yeah.
Can I put Target's logo in there as well?
You can. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So this, it would just you would go here into the, and then press edit or remove. In the.
So you can have more than one?
No, you can have one logo per course.
Oh, that's, okay.
Yeah. Sorry.
Has there been any development restricting navigation timing via
Restricting navigation timing.
between the slide deck to make sure they're going through it?
Sequentially.
Yeah, so we do have a setting down here. So per lesson, you can click this, and then it'll say must complete to proceed. It'll make sure you complete all the interactive elements within the entire lesson. And then if there are quizzes within the lesson and you toggle this on, it'll make sure that all the quizzes are also correct. And that applies to exams as well if you choose to generate an exam.
Does that work with the embedded videos? So you must watch the entire YouTube video without
No, but what I would do in that case is I would add a quiz under the video, and I would say, mark this as watched. Or like,
If it's a video you uploaded, would it track to make sure you've watched the whole video?
it would not, no.
No, it's not got the same functionality as LearnUpon native video tracking at the moment.
So I think, but the workaround would be that you would use a LearnUpon.
Yeah, the LearnUpon page modules, you could have video
Yeah.
tracking and then go back to the second section of the course.
Exactly, yeah. So there's a bit of a workaround there. Yes.
Are the quizzes more knowledge check style, or are they reportable outcomes? Like, do they come into SCORM reporting?
They're both knowledge checks, and they are reportable. Sean can tell you more.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The quizzes as standard, I guess, unless you turn on the default for quizzes that they're just knowledge checks. Exams, the default is that they're scored exams. You can change the settings for both of them. Your SCORM interactions report in LearnUpon will have the past verb with the percentage if there's any exam that's required. If it's just non-required exams, it'll just be completed.
And if you have more than one, are they cumulative output? Like where you have
Cumulative.
overall? Okay.
Yeah, we'd sum the scores and give them the percentage based on however many they got right.
Thank you guys so much. For the responses, we have some open-ended survey questions. Are we able to go through and take those and answer?
Yeah, great question. Unfortunately, SCORM limits the length of fields that you could have. I can't remember the exact characters. It might be 255, but don't quote me on that. So yes, but not long answers. Definitely can't do anything that's like even a couple of paragraphs long. You'll end up getting reports cut off. The data does exist in the background. It's just SCORM can't send more than it. It is something that we're looking at. We prefer. The ideal scenario is that Create Plus leverages all of LearnUpon's native reporting, not SCORM reporting, so we have no limitations on the data that we can send backwards and forwards. So we are working on that.
Okay, so we have Articulate currently.
Yeah.
There's so many courses in there. Is it possible if we switch to like upload a score file from Articulate and have it rebuild my course so I don't have to?
Yeah,
Great question.
really great question. Yeah. I didn't plan that question. So we're actually working on that at the moment. I'd guess that we'll be beta testing it in the next 2 weeks or so. So we're looking at Articulate Rise, not Storyline for now, because Storyline is a bit more complicated to do. But that you'd be able to upload your Articulate Rise SCORM or XAPI file, depending on how you're exporting it, and we'd convert it one-to-one as closely as we can into a Create Plus course. There'll be, during the beta testing, of course, like all beta testing, there'll be a period where we need to iterate on. And there are some features which we'll have across all content authoring tools where there's no exact match, but we're setting the baseline that if, let's say, Articulate Rise is branching scenarios, there's no exact match for that, but let's bring in the media, the assets from it, so at least you can transform it into a way you want in Create Plus and not lose that content that you had in Articulate Rise.
What if you have storyline interactions embedded in a Rise course? Because a lot of the time, that's how we have interactivity embedded in our
Yeah.
Rise courses, is we build them out in storyline and then
Yeah.
import it in.
Yeah, great. A really good question. I don't know is the short answer to it. The custom code block / embedding that Articulate Rise has is something that we have the same thing on the Create Plus side. Will that migrate in the same manner? We're not sure yet. We use Articulate Rise internally, so we will be testing that sort of thing. My hope is that if it's embedding, it's the same. It's like a generic embed code that we can just use the same thing on our side and not lose that. It definitely wouldn't be able to pull the storyline assets and do something with them. But 100% we'll be testing on those.
Are you particularly targeting specific authoring tools that you want to test the compatibility with?
Yeah, absolutely. There's quite a lot of difference in how each provider builds their SCORM files, so it'll be provider by provider. We're starting with Articulate Rise because it's the most common one we see. Most likely Easy Generator will be the next one because we've worked with Easy Generator quite a lot, and we'll see after that which ones we go to next.
With the custom code block, can you use any AI tools to generate, like AI like to have an interactive element, and does it even generate a HTML code block for you based on the prompts?
It does. Sorry, I'll stand up. It's easier. Yeah, it absolutely does. So we had not from us. We had a customer that had been trying that, and then we started doing it. You can do I had confetti cannons coming in on the custom code block. It's nerdily exciting doing that sort of things in the custom code blocks. So in essence, for the custom code blocks in Create Plus, they accept HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, and it's more or less. You can do whatever you like within that container of the custom code block. It can't do anything outside of that in the rest of the course, which is how we just protect ourselves from malicious code injection. So yeah, really good question. Yeah, yes.
So I have a question kind of going back to your actual. So I use Articulate for building my course, but I don't know, probably my lack of knowledge. I do all of my exams and surveys in LearnUpon.
Mm-hmm.
So how does that work with this? You incorporate this into what you're doing?
Really great question. At the moment, I would still, because of how LearnUpon exams are built within LearnUpon, I'd still recommend keeping that structure. So what you do is convert your Articulate Rise course into a Create Plus course, reversion your LearnUpon course, and just swap out the Articulate version with the Create Plus version. So you keep that same exam in place. No worries. Yeah.
So this is slide and card-based, which is kind of the standard. We find that for our learners that are using a mobile device, the scrollable format is a better user experience for them. Is there any plans to kind of adapt this out of the card format into more of a scrollable experience?
I would say on the UX side for mobile, this actually works quite well because it does still scroll vertically, so it does compress it into like a mobile format. So it's still scrolling, and then you would press a button to go to the next one. So it's actually more user-friendly than having a really long page. Yeah.
Yeah.
Back to your themes, can you upload images in the theme area as well?
It would be so there's special area for images unless you wanted an image as a logo. The theme is just for the logo, the colors, the fonts, and the kind of styling. But yeah, an image would be done like either for the background, it would go here, and you can replace. You can, we extract images from your sources as well if you uploaded them, and then you can upload your own. You can generate with AI. There's myriad of options for images.
One feature I really like in Articulate, I wonder if you guys have thought about having it here, is a question, maybe think about it, is being able to preview different device formats, so computer, tablet, phone, really quickly. Is that something that you guys are thinking about adding in?
I think the workaround for that is to scan the QR code to, yeah, so the question was, can you preview on different devices for, what's the word? Yeah, so you would just scan on your phone this QR code, and then you can kind of see it on what it would look like. But yeah, no, that's a good shout, and it's something we could build.
I just wanted to make sure I understood what you were saying about the scrolling. So it's not a constant scroll. There's buttons to go to the next card.
Yeah, I would invite you to actually scan this course if you like. Just scan the QR code, and then you can take a look at what it's like on your phone. No, it's yes for everyone. Just want to make sure it's. Yeah. Yes.
Yesterday, somebody asked about the roadmap features that you guys are looking into, specifically one around AI role-play scenarios. And I'm super also interested in assessment, like help, like more than just the quiz.
Okay.
So like a scenario-based assessment, scoring, rubric type
Yeah.
thing that kind of fits in with the role-play.
Yeah. What's the rubric that you're looking for? What do you mean by?
So, for example, we might write you have like an account manager when they're from like sales enablement training, we might ask them to do, here's your book of business or a customer scenario, and like write up, submit a 1-minute pitch to be able to how you respond to a customer selling product. Could you do an AI role? Like, so we use a product called Hyperbound right now. So they read through the scenario and LearnUpon, and then they have to go out of LearnUpon and go to Hyperbound and actually do the bot,
Yeah.
and then come back.
And
I know we can
yeah.
embed, but so yeah, curious if
Yeah.
you could just do it.
Great question. I can't do it right now because it's coming soon. It is on the. I'm designing it as we speak. And yeah, so there will be a like checkpoints that you go through that the AI will help you generate based on your lesson, your course, or a particular card, or your own like AI prompt. And then it works very similarly to the exam, where it'll test you on. It'll give you examples of what to test on. You can change them. You can edit them, and then it'll mark the learner's approach against those checkpoints at the end.
Okay. Will
Yeah.
it be able to scan, like if a learner submits an assignment that's like a video, or?
I don't believe we're enabling video, but it's audio and text. So they're going to be able to do like a phone call style interaction, or type if they can't speak at that time.
Question. I was just scrolling on my phone. Will this be something that you will add where it let them know how many lessons they have or where they are, because they're just going to the next lesson, but they're not quite sure how many it is?
I believe there's probably at the top. I think there's like a navigation. I can share with you after the session.
Okay.
Yes, I think by the way, we have 1 minute left, so make it good, Noah. Hi. Yes, so we have commenting capability. You can highlight text, or even on a card itself, or on an element, you're able to leave a comment, and it'll look like that. It'll be anyone who, I'm not sure how it works on the LearnUpon side, actually.
Yeah, for reviewing, we only have one type of access level at the moment, which means you need to have a seat assigned to be able to leave a comment. Now you can swap them out. You can swap them different users if you like. We are looking at adding a secondary permission level, which would be review only. So they can't edit it, they can still access it and leave all the comments because it's such a common flow. But at the moment, it requires a seat assigned.
I think something to note is like the integration is fairly new. Like the acquisition was quite new as well. And so the team has already done a tremendous amount of work putting this into the LearnUpon framework. There's a lot more that's coming that's going to make your lives a lot easier, from getting rid of SCORM export to the permissions levels. Like that's all going to be available. It's just we're doing it one step at a time, and we're getting the core features out there for you today.